just going. We're just going into the talk. Here's what I thought about it. I was like, this is going to be like a story of like, struggle and then success and then probably a little struggle. It's like, this is the realest story. We're going to have some chat. We're going to have some coach. We're going to do the whole thing. Hi, Felicia.
Holly.
Felicia is a lot of things, but she's currently the pony I'm betting on. You're the pony I'm betting on. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm much better today, so I'm good.
Were you having a hard day yesterday?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, and you've said this many times, is that recovery is just not linear. But
right.
My brain wants it to be linear. So when it's not linear, it turns lemonade back into lemons. Like
we could just stop the podcast now. Right? I mean, gosh, isn't that the whole, it's a funny thing about the mind and expectation, right? Like I used to say this all the time when people would like get off the elevator at my clinic. I would be like, you know what? I wish you could just lose 60 pounds but when you sign the HIPAA form. Like you deserve that, right? Like I think when we make this bold attempt, like you're going to tell us about, that you should get all the cash and prizes right then and there, a guaranteed assurance that this is going to be the time that works. But I love that, Felicia. You're putting the lemonades back to lemons. God, is that a great one? That's such a great one. So what was happening for you? And then we'll get to the story.
So it's been a struggle, and I've been put in this great place of grace, and that's fantastic. And then
you're like,
I'm like
miracles anyway.
and I'm all like, every day I'm all about the like, this is great, I'm in this place of neutrality, like yay, let's go, this is all good days, bad days, blah blah blah. And then I got on the scale and it didn't do what I wanted, and I was no happy because I mentally was saying and out loud encouraging everybody, like, I'm more than a number, I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do, the God of my understanding will take care of the weight, it'll happen in God's time, not my time. And then I got on the scale for the first time in 11 weeks and it was my time and I wasn't happy. And by the way, nothing.
I giggle because I relate so profoundly.
And by the way, you would think that like I gained 20 pounds. I didn't at all. Right. Like I lost weight and my doctor was super happy. Right. And I'm sitting there like this.
Yeah.
With the grumpy face, like I'm 5 years old.
And it's funny, right? Like, gosh, it's like when I wrote Breaking Up with Sugar and I received this beautiful community of people who wanted to break up with sugar. And the more people who joined the community, because I got access, not just to the 100 people or the 1,000 people, I got access to such a large number of people. I was like, oh my God, all these people are diet addicted. And it's arguable that their diet and weight addiction is worse than their sugar addiction because it prevents them from ever finding freedom.
And it's funny because if you look at all my posts prior to that on my personal page, on the groups, I'm like, freedom isn't about the number. It's all about like, because 11 weeks ago, I was so far into the food, I couldn't even see straight.
Right. I want to get to that in a second, but I want to stick on this for a second, which is like, isn't that, I mean, there's a part where it's like hilarious. And then there's a part where it's like really the ancestral wounding of our mothers and our mothers and our mothers and our mothers about you have to be thin and it has to be quick. Like that diet culture is infused, I feel like, in our DNA, I swear, because I too am like you. Like I am just so grateful. My body has been through so much, and there are times if I get on a scale with an expectation and not a data point, that I too will be like, have a noose around my neck, be at risk to binge, because we always want to do that when it's such a funny thing about eating disorder, right? That the scale doesn't say something we wanted to, and we want to harm ourselves with food.
Well, so there's two things that were in parallel in this case, right? One is I've come to the belief that there is no number on there that would have been okay.
I agree with you. I'm so glad
And
I didn't even
and
need to
that's
coach
the
you into that,
sad
huh?
part. The sad part is like, and I started messaging everybody because I went bananas, because immediately, as soon as I stepped off that scale, or as the numbers were even appearing, my brain was like, why bother? What's the point? If I'm going to be work this hard and this is all that's going to happen, just go back to the way it was. Because what my brain does is it's like an etch a sketch, and it sanitizes out all the ugly. And so, like, because there was nothing good going on 11 weeks ago in my relationship with food.
Do you want to do a
And
little piece of work on this really quickly for
sure,
everybody so that,
sure,
because like this is everyone's story. Do you
sure.
have an idea about what the primary feeling was that you were having when you stepped on that scale?
Shame.
Yes. Oh my God, you're so good at the feelings wheel. And so it's because I think it's a profound shame reaction. Do you have any idea what your interpretation of the feeling of shame was?
Yeah, because for me, it all comes down to the fact that if I was some perfect weight,
Mm-hmm.
none of the horrible things that happened to me in my life would have happened. That the
Interesting.
answer to everything is this magical, ethereal number that doesn't actually really exist in real life.
Do you
But
think there's
it's this
any?
overwhelming grief that is tied to that shame that
God, is
I
that
haven't
good?
mourned yet.
Yeah. I wonder too, like, because the function of shame, one of the functions of shame is to protect us from rejection. And I wonder if when you saw that number, that old pipe of, oh my God, it's not working, and you're someone, and we'll get to this, I promise, listener, I promise, but you're someone who, you put the all in all in. And I wonder what part of this old pathway that had an expectation that it should be 400 pounds, like this should be like at least 80 pounds in 11 weeks. That part of you was like, oh my God, it's not working. That there was this like little lingering piece of you that was just trying to protect you from that feeling of it not working with you being all in. That's the
Because it
part I would think we would want
ultimately,
to nurture,
yeah, because it ultimately becomes, I'm a failure.
Yeah.
I do bad things. I can't do anything right. And by the way, that's going to lead to everybody abandoning me,
I
and I'm going to
know.
die alone because
I
I'm
know.
unlovable.
I
And
know.
that's that in like
Right.
one step of the scale is exactly where my brain goes, that I'm
Mm.
unlovable, that I am an embarrassment. And all of this stuff starts coming back. And that neutral, safe space that was created was so fragile because I'm still building it, right?
Yeah.
This is still a
Right.
work in progress.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Like you thought that the cement was already solidified, and then you were just kind of like swimming in cement for a second.
Because 11 weeks is going to undo 40 some odd years of like, yeah.
Well, I'm curious about what you seem so put together today, though I'm sure that is one of your really wonderful traits that you can throw on a mask and talk to me. But how were you able to not harm yourself?
So that's a great question. And what
Thank you.
happened is I used every tool that both your book and you personally and everything you've created have given me. So the
Mm,
very first thing I did was I reached out to the person who ran my group. I reached out to every single woman in that group
wow.
that I'm in, and every single one of them, whether it was on Facebook or personally, got back to me in one way or another and just reminded me nobody can do the work for me, right? It's an inside job. But what everybody reminded me of, and I also went to the big breaking up with sugar group,
Oh,
and
you went
basically
everywhere. You were
my
like, I need connection right now.
yep, and I
Like your life
basically,
depended upon it.
because
You
it
just,
did.
yeah.
And in
Wow.
that group, the big group, I said, somebody just tell me that this is going to pass and that it's worth it and it's going to be okay. And I got 20 or 30 messages there. I got personal from people like, it's going to be okay. I got people who said, I felt this way last week. Here's what I did. And then, you know, I started picking up the toolbox and I did some alternative rebellion and wore my clothes inside out.
Right.
And things that might sound silly to other people, but you
No,
know what? That's better than picking up a box of cookies or eating
absolutely.
14
Listen, and I
spoons of
have to
it.
say, girls like you and me can really hurt themselves with food.
Yeah,
I'm with you. Like I can really I can really get pretty suicidal with
yeah.
food if I'm in the wrong emotional space and not willing to try to change it. Last night I ran a group in the All In Intensive because I run them once a month, and we were talking about the cognitive distortion. So cognitive distortion, for those of you who are new to it, is a way of thinking that distorts your vision. And one of the cognitive distortions that I'm thinking about right now is disqualifying the positive. So I think it's such a fun idea that you were having this really hard day yesterday. And today we get to qualify the positive and listen to what I think is one of the greatest stories of leaps of faith and bravery that I've heard in a minute. I'm going to try to keep my emotions regulated, but I can't promise that I will. So why don't you like talk to us a little bit about like how it came to pass that you joined this group and what were the circumstances about it? And because you have quick, let's do some stats. Like how many, what days are we on right now?
I am on uh 60 without sugar. Excuse me,
Wow.
without wait, 66 days without a cigarette
Wow.
and 56 days without sugar or flour.
That's incredible. You're really moving towards the automacy. This is so exciting. So how did you, and I love that 11 weeks doesn't, 56 days is less than 11 weeks. So tell us everything. I'm so excited.
So I met you, Molly, back in 2018 at a retreat that you were actually presenting at.
Right.
And at that time, that was my day one
Mm.
off sugar, flour, and I was on a path.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be on that path for 2.5 years.
Mm.
And then I threw my abstinence away.
How did you throw it away? Where was the garbage? What happened? Whoa.
I lost everything. I lost my marriage. I lost my job of 23 years. I lost my marriage of 23 years. I became a single parent. I got homeless. The pandemic hit. I was unemployed for 2 years. And what I realize now is I hadn't built a, a, a foundation that was strong enough to live life on life's terms. If things were stable and things were okay, it was good. But when the world really started to fall apart, I got a case of the efforts and everything went away.
Wait,
And I
I have
started
to ask a
binging.
few more questions about that.
Sure.
Because you say you threw it away. I just don't think we throw it away. I think like a lot of things happen. But so was it like you when all of these really terrible life paradigm shattering things happened, it just felt like you couldn't survive without sugar and flour? Because you're sober
Yeah.
too. Like, did that impact the sobriety?
So it's very
Sober with
interesting.
alcohol, by the way, everyone.
Yep. I'm sober with alcohol and drugs, going on 28 years.
So it didn't occur to you to break that abstinence.
It didn't. And this was the amazing thing that I learned in week 2 of All In, is that it was something you wrote and said, I was not protecting my abstinence the way I protected my sobriety.
Yeah.
The FBI had nothing on me when I went to a restaurant and I was like, is it cooked in alcohol?
Right.
Does it breathe near alcohol? Like if I'm going to a party, am I spiritually fit? If not, I have no problem saying I'm out of there. I'm home in my pajamas watching TV, but I didn't do that.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it just didn't occur? Like, I mean, it's funny, like in a way, we have to eat all the time. But I really understand it, at least from how, I mean, I don't want to assume what happened for you. Like, I always feel like with the food, it's like people say like, well, it's no big deal. Like it's just sugar. It's not like it's cocaine. It's not like, but the story but and like, and I think oddly dialectic, I think it's sort of true. Like food isn't heroin, right? And it kind of is for some people sometimes.
For me, being on my second heart attack and
Right.
having a lot of other, I'm a type 2 diabetic. I have stage 1 thyroid cancer. I have a lot of issues that my weight and my relationship with food impact. Here's what I've come to learn in All In. I am a trauma survivor. I was sex trafficked as a child for a number of years. And then I was rescued. And my first drug of choice was food.
Yeah.
What comforted me, what saved my life, and I didn't even know it back then, was when the going got tough, food kept me from killing myself.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
it would later turn on me, just like they talk about alcohol turning like a boomerang. It would turn on me in many ways, but it is a coping skill, and it's my coping skill of choice. So when the world got crazy, like food was the only thing that could comfort me. I never learned how to soothe myself without food.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, All In isn't so much, I thought it was, I need tools, I need tools. What you guys reminded me is I got a really big tool chest. And that's not a brag. Like I have tools. Having tools isn't my problem. The problem is when I get dysregulated, I forget the toolbox even exists.
Right.
I can't see the toolbox. I don't care about the toolbox. And so why am I okay today, or more relatively okay, is because I used all my tools and I had a huge support network, that All In allowed me to build, that I didn't, I reached out to you. I just needed somebody that I trusted to tell me it was going to be okay.
I wouldn't underestimate the bravery that it takes though to do that. Like I love when, I mean, that's like my love language. If I see somebody just SOSing all over the place in their small Facebook group and their large, like just like I need, like, it's such a beautiful, because I think we have to show up. This is really about, it's certainly about a relationship with food, but it's also really about reestablishing a relationship of trust and love for ourselves. And that's the only way we do it. Like you have kids, like if your kid was struggling like that, you would be on a foghorn. And for yourself yesterday, you were on a foghorn.
What I think is interesting is, so what happened is I kept trying and trying and trying to get out of the food.
So at 20, when did you like establish like at least a home? Like you were homeless, all this, like when did it sort of settle in after that? So like, of
So
course,
I
like, it
got a
makes sense. You
job.
went to the food, first drug of choice, didn't have many bright lines. I get it. Like pandemic was the busiest time of my career,
I had a lot of excuses in my head, right?
Sure.
Much cheaper to buy cup of noodle soup than it is
Right.
to buy
Like
other
carrots.
food.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
buy carrots or protein. So
Right.
that was my story. A year ago, I got a job.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided that a boyfriend was going to fix my problems.
Sure.
So now that I'm divorced and all that, so we tried that and that didn't work. And I was getting deeper and deeper and deeper into the food.
What does that mean? Can you explain that?
Sure, I was binging all the time, and I was going back to hiding my food and eating in bathrooms and eating out of garbage cans and eating stuff off the floor. And it gets very ugly very quickly for me. And
When you were with the boyfriend, was your food relatively stable? Like, was that?
It was getting worse.
Oh, so
It was getting,
not even love could.
and I was hiding
conquer
it
it.
from him. And the other thing is, it was somebody who didn't understand food addiction. And so he didn't have a problem feeding me French fries if I was feeling sad or other things. So it was not working.
Right.
And I remembered that I met you and I had your book and I've read it multiple times. And I know a number of people have had real success in your program. And I was starting to grasp at straws. And I saw that you were doing an all-in program, and I had tried everything else and nothing was working.
What did you try?
I started diets again.
Mm-hmm.
Weight Watchers, keto, fasting, intermittent this,
Right.
pineapple that, like
Right.
it just didn't matter
Right.
because you could lock me in a closet. I was going to find the food. And it wasn't, and I didn't have neutrality with food. I didn't have, it was my master. And it
Can you
was,
say more about that though? Like what, just can you unpack that a little bit for the person
sure.
listening? Like I
So,
didn't have neutrality. What does that mean?
so what it means is that food was making all my decisions, and it decided that I didn't need to take a shower. I needed to sit and eat. It decided that I didn't need to take money and pay a bill. I needed to go and buy more food. It decided that I wasn't going to go out with my best friend and have a good time. I was going to stay home and I was going to eat food. Like food was making all of my decisions, and I just had, it was like I had no say in the matter. Like I had no voice with it because the voice of
eating
food,
without our own permission, right?
I was eating against my permission at that
Eating
point.
without our own. I love that. Yeah.
And my world was getting tinier and tinier and tinier. And here's where it crosses over into AA. So now it's, you know what, I'm going to eat food and I'm not going to pick up that call from my sponsee. I'm not going to, and I'm not proud of this.
So it's like the food was impacting all of your value system at this point. You couldn't show up for the thing that AA matters so much to you. So it's like you couldn't even say to a woman that you're helping, like you were becoming useless.
And I can't go to this meeting because I need to sit and eat.
Wow.
Or, you know, and it was, and then the shame spirals and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Now I was blessed to have a sponsor who said, you're going to drink, so don't do that. Go get the help you need in your eating program. And so I was at this crossroads and I decided to try all in. I was broke. I borrowed the money to take the program.
How did you borrow money? Who did you borrow money from?
I went to my best friend and I said, look, I know you've seen me through like a lot of IOPs and a lot of other things and every diet on the earth. I said, but here we go again. And in January of last year, I had another heart problem and had to have a second stent put in. And I'm not healthy right now. And they can't do certain procedures to save my life unless I get my diabetes under control. So for those who know what an A1C is, mine is now 10.8.
When you join the program,
when I joined the program,
it's not 10.8 today, right?
Well, we don't know what it is today. I will have my numbers done in a few weeks.
My guess is like 5.5. Like that's my guess, but I ain't no doctor either.
But it was 10.8, which was very, very scary. And my blood sugars were ranging up to 500, which is stroke levels. So none of that was fun.
Yeah.
None of that was good. So I joined the program. And the problem was when the intake started.
Hold on, slow this one down. Because I only care about how in the world did you think an online program like that how did you think I need to borrow money for this? Can you make sense of it with me?
It makes no sense because I didn't even have willingness, but I had a tiny, tiny grain of everything I had tried wasn't working. And I was suicidal and I was desperate. And I have 2 kids who need me. And I have an 18-year-old and a 27-year-old, both with special needs and like different needs. And so the reality is I wasn't quite ready to leave this planet, but I didn't know what to do. And so I had this belief. I had been lurking in the Breaking Up with Sugar group for the Facebook group for a number of years.
Wow.
And I saw people happy and I saw people succeeding and I wasn't happy. And it gave me like a teeny bit of hope. But the truth is, I still walked into All In like this.
Yeah, with your arms crossed. Wait, I have one more question. So when you said to your friend, sorry, I'm like still on this one. Well, because I think it's just so ballsy. Like it's so brave. Like I'm just moved by this parallel of slowly killing yourself and desperately wanting to live. Like I'm so moved by it, right? Like, because I'm such a fan of the human spirit. And this is the most beautiful story of the human spirit I've heard in a minute, right? So you can't stop this addiction, but there's this little piece of you that's like, I know I can. And so what does your friend say when you're like, listen, I'm dying. I need to borrow some money to do this online program? I laugh only because it's like, one might think in the story you were like using a knife in a gunfight, but it actually works out quite well.
It's funny because it's probably in the 40 years we've been friends, not the craziest story I've ever said
Oh,
to
wow,
her.
that's great.
But she's seen me get sober, and
Right.
it was a genuine request.
Right.
It was like, look, this is how I'm going to pay you back. This is the plan. I need to try something because nothing is working and I
She
can't
just said,
stop.
okay. She said,
She
you got
just
it.
said, okay,
I love her.
we got you,
Oh my God,
and
what's
we're
her
going to
name?
figure
Can
it
we like
out.
just love on her for a second? We should all
her
take
name
friendship
is
classes from
her,
her.
her name is Diane,
Hi,
and
Diane. We love
she
you.
is very unique and we love her very
Oh, we love
much.
her very
And
much.
she made it happen,
Oh,
and it happened. Um and I would like to say that I came to All In and I was a willing girl and it was all good and roses fell from the sky, and none of that actually happened. I showed up and y'all embraced me, and I was in porcupine mode, and I was like, I didn't make a phone call. I didn't do anything I was told.
Mm,
And when I was doing the intake, she was like, okay, let's make some goals. And I'm like,
nope.
I'm like, I've got my camera off and I'm binging. Like I can't even tell you what I need because I
You're
can't
like,
even.
what's a goal?
My goal is that maybe I'm not spilling oodles and noodles of soup on me. I don't know, but my turning point really was, it had to do with beginner's mind,
Mm,
which for a hot minute I was like, how dare you, I have this many years in this
yeah.
program, and
You're like, I haven't drank for a million years. I know I'm killing myself with food, but I got that beginner's mind. Right. I
like,
get it.
and I've been in therapy for
I
blah blah
get
blah,
it.
and I'm going to be a well therapized corpse, and like I got
I
this all
get
good.
it. I get it.
And
Do you,
then
that's what I was like. I was like, do you know who I am? Like, they're like, no, we don't care.
and I was like, all right, because nothing, and it was sort of like this moment of nothing I'm doing is working. What if I just tried for like 5 days? That was what I said in my head. Like, 5 days, I'm just going to do everything everybody tells me.
What
So
inspired that thought?
it really was the conversation about beginner's mind. It was your video.
You watched this
And I
video on
was like,
Beginner's Mind and you were like,
I
okay, I
watched
really
this
have it.
video and I'm like, would it kill me? And I'm
Mm.
like, maybe not as fast as everything else I'm doing.
Right.
And I'm like, all right. And I like participated in group and I went to the Facebook and I'm like, all right, I can do all these things.
And like week
And
one, you were like camera off binging.
week one was a disaster. Week two was a disaster. Week three is when I showed up.
Mm.
And so for anybody who's like, I can't do this, just keep showing up. And I swear to God, I never had that experience in AA of like, bring the body and the mind will follow. That happened here. And I was stuck on the fact that I didn't understand why I was sponsoring women and I was doing all these steps and I was doing all this stuff and I was doing all the things, and it didn't work for this.
Yeah.
And you basically said, stop. I was overthinking it. I was trying to like figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the facts. It wasn't working and I was dying.
Mm.
And here was some proven way to do something that works. And I didn't know. Like what I was doing wasn't working.
Mm.
So it really was a matter of, I flipped the switch and said, all right, what I'm doing isn't working. It ain't gonna work, but I'm gonna try it because then I can tell her, hey, it doesn't work, Molly. No, no, no,
Right.
no, no.
Like, and I give you your money back. I
And I
really
could be
like,
like,
wow, it doesn't. Tell me more. Yeah, exactly.
but I got nothing. I was playing with house money and I had nothing to lose.
Right.
And the good news is my blood sugars are down.
Mm.
I am releasing weight as much as I want, but
There's no
I
such
am.
amount. What are your blood sugars down to? Are they like human levels?
They are human levels. They are under
Congratulations.
150,
Oh,
which is,
your endocrine
um,
system must be having such a fiesta right now.
it is. But I will say what I wasn't prepared for is I put the food down and the world got so loud
Mm.
and the negativity inside got so out of control.
Mm.
And it has not been, you know, 9 weeks of happy, but it has been 9 weeks of, instead of here and here, it's like, it's not linear like
So
we were
instead of up
talking
and
about.
down, with big up, big down, it's sort of like little up, little down, little up, little down.
And I'm outside of myself, and I've created a power circle that is so stunningly beautiful.
Who
And
is it? How did you get it? Tell us more. I'm
so
I'm just thrilled by this. I'm just entranced.
so the ladies in All In, when I actually started posting to
Right.
Facebook and using the tools that I was given, they all showed up. Like, I took
Right.
everybody's phone number down, and I
Used it.
I
It's
text
hard
them
to connect when you're not connecting, right? I mean, I get it. Like they say in AA, even like, right, like it's the 10,000-pound phone, but like when you're, it's hard to connect when you're not connecting. And so you're saying like, well, the minute I started connecting, I started to feel better. I mean, the data on connection being the opposite of addiction, like I disputed in my personal soul, but like, it really works 100% of the time. It's pretty bonkers, isn't it?
So I've got a beautiful story. So one of the women that I connected with didn't know her from a hole in the wall
Right.
until we started doing all In together. Texts me and says, I'm going to gift you a session of Intensante. Come with me.
Oh my God.
Because I had talked about the fact, because now that the cloud is lifted, I can't shut up. And so
we're all so happy about that, Felicia. I'm such a fan of it.
I'm like, I'm everywhere. I go everywhere now.
Good.
So that's the kind of love and kindness that we are to one another, where we reach out to one another, we make phone calls to one another. And it's just such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And these people just showed up. My tribe grew up around me. And it's amazing, because I was always defined by being a trauma survivor. And what I'm coming to understand is, if I want long-term separation from sugar and flour, and I want neutrality in the food, I've got to allow myself to be redefined. And there's forgiveness that has to happen. And there's yet more work that I still need to do, even when I get tired.
You get to do. Come on. There's a lot of, I'm just saying, like, I know I hate that too. Like, I hate myself for saying it, but like a lot of people die of, killing themselves with food. A lot of people die really resentful and full of hate, and don't even have the insight to think, I want to do it better. And you have that. So you do get to do the work. You don't have to do the work. You get to do the work. I know it's annoying, but it's also true.
It is true. It is true that
I feel that way. I'm like, another one, really? And my God is like, yeah. What else are we here to do?
So here's the crazy thing. So I was in this relationship, and I was trying to break it off since February, because I wanted to stay abstinent, and I knew I couldn't stay abstinent in that relationship.
How did you know that? Oh, the French fry feeder?
Yes, the French fry feeder.
Okay, yeah.
He lots of other issues. So
Well,
the truth
you
is,
had me at French fry feeder. Like I was opposed to the relationship after French fry feeder, but I'm sure
there's way more. So, but the good news is, I stayed in a 23-year marriage that was a disaster, and it took me like extremes to leave. So this relationship wasn't that long, thank God. And thanks to All In and all the support I got, I literally got up, changed my phone number I've had for like 3 decades, by the way. Changed my phone number because I knew that was the only solution, because he wasn't going to go away. He wasn't going to respect my boundaries. And it was more important to protect what I was building here than it was to dabble in something that was going to destroy me.
Wow.
And so changed my phone number, had some sadness around it, didn't eat over it.
Sure.
And it's sad. But the thing is, what I'm learning is, until I break the ties that tether me, I'm not I can't begin to grieve. And what I'm understanding now is when the food goes away, all that grief comes up, and
Right.
it looks like shame, and it looks like sadness, and it feels like, and this is where feelings versus facts are so important. It feels like it's going to smother and drown me, but it's really not. It
Right.
comes up to here,
Right. It comes
even
up
though
to
it
the neck. Right. Comes
feels,
up to the neck. Feels like it's about to drown, but it always stops at the neck.
it stops here.
Yeah.
And
Always
so
stops at the neck. Yep.
it's really like, I'm just so incredibly grateful to you, Molly, and all the opportunities. I can't wait for the retreat on forgiveness.
Yeah.
Like, because that's exactly where I'm at now. And it's really funny because that friend I was talking about, my bestie for 42
Diane.
years. Yeah, Diane for 42
I'm
years
obsessed
has
with
put up
Diane
this mess.
currently. I have friends
Everybody
like
needs
Diane,
one.
by the way.
Everybody
You're
needs
really
one.
lucky. Lucky, lucky, lucky.
She's
Yeah.
like, she's amazing. And what she said to me, so I come out, from one of the all-in sessions, and I'm all like, it's about, and the Own Your Worth retreat, and we did all this stuff, and I come in and I'm like, it's about forgiveness. That's my next milestone. And she's like, that's great. And then I'm going on and on. And she just turns to me, she goes, and what are you going to do about it? What's
Mm,
the action you're going to take? And I went,
mm,
you know,
yeah.
I thought I was, and so what I'm finding is that All In clears me up to help me see the actions I need to take, and it stocks my toolbox a little bit more, and it clears off the cobwebs. The truth is, and I don't know the answer yet. I don't know how I process all this grief, and some of it'll be coaching, and some of it'll be, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
But
And I think the
there's,
other
yeah,
thing is like, I think the beauty of it is like mindfully, slowly, probably, right? Like there's a part of us that's like, okay, well, I figured out the thing and now I need to get it done. And unfortunately, I don't think forgiveness is one of those. I think it's a slow, intentional, it's like we want to binge on forgiveness now. And we just like, I get that. I'm so like that.
yeah.
And it's like, and forgiveness is like, no, 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 no. Two
Mhm.
steps forward, one step back, three steps forward, one step back. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like the beautiful thing of life. We don't need to rush it. And I also would say, take a minute to consider taking a minute to, gosh, what a beautiful thing to be aware of. Because even in being aware that forgiveness is the next hurdle you are choosing to jump over, you're separating yourself from your story. If you can see that you need to forgive, it means that that story is loosening a little bit. Like that it happened, that victim story that so many of us tell, because, and for you with your story, I mean, when we're a victim, we forget we have choices, but when you're, a sex trafficked young, like you did have your choices stolen from you. So as like a gentleness, that's just coming up for me to share with you, like gentle. You're such a beautiful fighter. What a story of fighting for your life. What a story of fighting for your life. It's so inspiring. I feel like, should we have you? Oh, wait. So anyway, your all intensive is ending next week because it's a 3-month program. What are you doing?
I am going to be taking another round
Right. That's so
of
great. What made
of
you
All
decide to
In.
do that?
Um, I want to protect this with everything I do.
Yeah. There's more growth. There's more growth to do, and that you can do it in
I
other ways.
remember what it was like in my first year of sobriety.
Mm.
And I thought about, what was I like at 90 days, right? What did I look like 3 months into sobriety?
Yeah.
And I still wasn't fit for purpose to play with others. Like I was
My
a
hair was
hot
just
mess.
coming down from the fire, right?
Yeah, we were still pressing the ashes. So
Right.
I'm like, what makes me think that, like, first of all, everybody needs a Molly, and
Oh, I
in
have
my
a Molly
opinion,
too. It's true. Everybody has Molly. I have like 15 Mollies. One is named Bessie. She's just the greatest Molly of all time.
but everybody needs, like, that person that believes in you when you don't believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And what I love is that All In was about failing isn't an option.
Right.
because you just keep getting back up
Mm.
and you keep trying. And nobody said to me, hey, because you're still binging, you have to leave.
Mm.
And nobody said
Right.
to me, like, you can't do it.
And no one's
Like,
like,
it
you're
was
not
such
following
that.
the rules because the rules are self-made and all in. Yeah. No, I think that's really, that's really data driven though, right? Because the only piece of data is that self-determination. Like, of course you have these nudges from these coaches being like, can you post? We miss you. Right. But if you don't do it, we're going to be like, all right. I feel like maybe we should do another podcast around week 10 or 11 in your second round of All In. What do you think? We're just going to like when you measure your kids up I'd be interested to see where you are. I
Wait, we
really,
could do that as progress instead of getting on a scale.
you
I'm
know what I
all about
mean? I
that.
mean,
Yeah.
not that you asked my opinion, but I don't think I don't think you should ever get on a scale, but I really don't. I really don't. And if you do, can I give you a suggestion? When I was in this space too, because I had gained 100 pounds back from bariatric surgery. And I was in such a rush and my career was on the line and it was just so bad. And even when I found breaking up with sugar, I still had to like really, in my own urgency, um, I ended up having to be so loving around when I got on the scale. And this is a concept from 12 steps also, or lots of people, but gosh, I was so supported when somebody knew I was getting on, somebody knew how I was getting off. I scheduled probably a call with someone who was in my power circle or in my high level power circle. Like I took a lot of care of myself because like you, I had this like knowing like unless because the shame response is so big because my internal rejection, because I had so much on the line, I need to like I have all the shame antidotes around me. And that was just people who love me. And so that would be my suggestion. If you are going to get on the scale though, I don't really think you need to, but we can talk that through. You're a beautiful human. I love you. I'm so glad that you're in our community. I mean, this is a beautiful story of transformation, but it's also a beautiful story of when we wake up, what service we can be to others too. And it's really powerful and I love you.
I love you too. And
And
you know what?
we'll see you in 10 weeks.
Nothing tastes as good as this feels.
Yeah, that's right. Listen, a lot of times when I say to people at the end of the show, well, what would you tell somebody? Everyone's like, if I can do it, you can do it. But like this story, like, but it's like you jump on Grace. You just jump on. If you have a sniff of Grace,
Yep.
jump on her.
Yep. Absolutely.
You're the pony I'm betting on. I love you. Thank you so much for coming on the
Thank
show.
you.
We love you so much.
Love you.